So I want to bet that Method Black may do, and I certainly hope they do.
Rogue Mage Priest as their default, but we also got to keep in mind, right? This Method Black team evolved quite a bit.
Yep.
They got up on this stage, they didn't have Raikou, and they were like, oh darn, we need to make something work, and we need to make it work quickly, and all of a sudden, their main composition somewhat changes, but there he is, Raikou going to be back just in time for the mirror. It is a full mirror here. You guys think Method Black's gonna be able to take it 77% to 23 on the side of Ascendant? Let's jump straight into this one. The gates are gonna open to a mirror. Whoever wins this series goes to the grand finals.
Interesting decision by Twitch chat. I actually think Ascendant has a much better shot than that. I think this is going to be a very, very close series as the gates do open. We'll have to see how these openers play out. Both rogues going to be charging in with Sprint. Normally see the Priest go for a Mass Dispels, but it doesn't look like they're going to be doing it just yet. Actually going for a Mind Control onto Chaz. Chaz going for that MD, nicely denied by Ratapai.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really one-sided Twitch part. I was caught off guard by that, because even the Tempo Storm series was much, much closer. You guys really fanning onto Method Black, and I mean, I can't blame you. They're the almost undefeated team, 2 losses only this tournament. Waz, of course, one of the big playmakers. We're watching him, as Acro and him are both looking for some sort of openers now that their mages are out. They want to get the perfect crowd control into the healer, and Acro strikes first. Yeah,
there's a kitty shot over on a Chaz. Is Maro going to be able to find the follow-up crowd control? Doesn't look like everyone is just cheap shot right now. Maro blinking and looking for the polymorph kitty shot now onto Ratapai. Raikou doesn't look like he's going to be able to land that Ring of Frost, but Chaz charges in. Can he get the fear? Actually lands the full fear. Nicely done. Acro's getting swapped to. He has to trinket, evasion, Cloak of Shadows, and now Acro's is super vulnerable in this position.
Yeah, I mean, I think they caught them off guard a little bit there. The full polymorph onto Maro, denying any crowd control into Chaz, so he pushes across the map, gets the fear. Now Acrolos has no defensive cooldowns. He could be a fantastic swap target for the team, as we see Smoke Bomb, though, on the flip side, going over onto Maro. They're trying to get some pressure over onto the mage.
Nice barrier, though, coming in from Ratapai to keep him alive. Maro looking for the full polymorph, lands it over onto Chaz. Now Raikou could be in some trouble, but doesn't look like they have the damage to bring him down. Ratapai able to easily heal through this pressure for now. Smoke Bomb actually going to be dropped there by Acros, but a nice fear coming in from Chaz denies that Smoke Bomb setup. Very nicely done.
That was a beautiful, beautiful fair. Like, obviously no trinket on Acros, they were able to get nothing done. And honestly, Method Black haven't looked in any trouble whatsoever so far in the game. Nothing has been forced. We see Kidney Shot now over onto Ratapai. They get the pain suppression with that one on Maro, but Raikou taking the brunt of damage. This is a big swap. A big double fair comes in. Waz trinkets. Counterspell to Raikou there. It might not be enough to hold the trinket. Can they get the follow-up polymorph? They don't quite get it. Maro denied.
Yeah, it actually blinded up Maro there, so nicely done by Waz, slowing down that damage. Saps up Maro, and now that they open up on him with the full polymorph secured onto Ratapai, Maro could be in some trouble. Doesn't have the trinket, activates the temporal shield, trying to run away, but Waz on top of him. Raikou looking for some damage as well. Flurry Ice Lance connects. This could be the first ice block. Big damage going out from Method Black onto Ascendant, but Ratapai gets out of the crowd control, and it looks like the Archangel will be enough to deflect.
Yeah, and neither of these teams want to fall behind, and even Waz using the blind defensively on Maro, because Raikou would have 100% had to use his ice block if he didn't. They could have even traded ice blocks there. Must have been something that went through Maro's mind, but they're playing it patient, they're playing it solid, and both the healers are quite even on mana as well. So if this isn't a game of cooldowns or mana, it's just a very evenly matched game. We see another great setup coming in from Ascendant there. Ring of Frost and Polymorph. Maro taking control of the game, but no damage. Actually, ice block forced by Raikou, an early ice block there.
Oh, nice fear coming in from Ratapai as Maro did get spell locked there. Raikou could still be in some trouble. Getting out, gets deleted, and honestly, Method Black had such good control coming in from that game, but Ascendant at the end, that was such a clean setup, ultimately able to take game number 1.
It was a beautiful play from Maro that set it up too. We said that he got a little bit caught off guard by the crowd control, but he was able to set that entire thing up with the Ring of Frost, the polymorph, and an excellent kill coming in there from Ascendant.
And this is why the first thing that both of you said is, look, Twitch chat, you may be wrong on this one. You gotta give our boys on Ascendant a little bit more credit. I think the phenomenal thing about Method Black here is, once again, we see, look, they're still confident on the Rogue Mage. They're still looking good on the Rogue Mage. This is a composition that they can definitely wield up on the main stage. It's going to be a powerful tool for them, even though we know right now, really, what are they maining? Probably Outlaw Ellie, if you had to call something that they're maining the most. But Ascendant, absolutely skill capped, a completely different team. They're absolutely skill capped on this composition. They thrive in mirrors, and they're so good at being aggressive. Zico, what was it that allowed them to get the first win in the series?
It's just great setup, honestly, by Maro. He had such a nice cross CC. I mean, it's the whole team as well, because you can't really do that solo setup anymore as a mage, but just with Acro and Ratapai, they managed to just secure that last bit of crowd control so well. They got a sheep onto Waz, they get a kidney shot at the same time onto Chaz, so he can't dispel that sheep. Then they get a ring onto Chaz, and then while this is going on, we got a spell lock onto Raikou as well, so he can't CS Maro, and then he's casting an Ebon Bolt, and this is actually the moment. Sheep on Waz, full ring on Chaz, casting the Ebon Bolt. Raikou, of course, respecting that, blocking it because he CS on Arcane. Re-sheep onto Waz, into a full fear onto Chaz, into all of that flurry damage onto Raikou. Honestly, this was such a clean setup. We have to see it once again. I mean, here we just take a look at Ratapai's positioning over here. He wants to stay away from Waz and stay on max range so that Waz cannot stun Ratapai as well as Maro at the exact same time, making it very easy for Raikou to land that polymorph. So instead, Ratapai is going to stay back, and then here we can see Maro is casting the sheep here onto Waz, and then he's going to get that Ring of Frost onto Chaz, and this is the most important thing of it all. This counter spell here, you can see interrupted a polymorph, which means that Raikou cannot use his counter spell. So what Maro ends up doing here is he CS's Raikou, sheeps Waz with the Ring of Frost, and then it's just such a clean setup. Honestly, Maro played this part of the game so well. Full Ring of Frost, and then here Ebon Bolt while Raikou is CS, and he cannot blink it, reducing the damage of it. So instead, he is going to ice block that damage. Ratapai gets the Master Spell. Waz gets sapped by Acro into that sheep shot, into a fear onto Chaz, into that Frostbolt, giving Maro that lucky flurry proc as well, giving him enough damage to take down Raikou in that situation. The stars is aligned for Ascendant there. This was 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 setup.
All right, so I wanted to ask you, Ben, and then kind of throw in the other thing as well. If you're a mage right now, how bad do you want to just mirror the entire series?
How bad do you want to mirror the entire series?
How
I don't
bad
think
do these
either of these teams have a choice.
They just have to do it.
Yeah.
We're going to get mirrors, you think, the entire way through.
I was going to say, though, Maro at the end, he got a little lucky with the back-to-back flurry procs.
Yeah.
I was actually trying to look at the spell animations from that. Did he use the first flurry?
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't.
Oh, okay.
I think he didn't use it, exactly, because he saw the ice block and he saved one. So he only got lucky once, but still.
He did get lucky with that. He casted one Frostbolt there at the end and instantly got it.
That's the thing, though. Like, that one little bit of luck is a lot of damage.
It's a reward for how well he played.
It was a great
He deserved.
He was given. He
in another expansion, he would have shadowed him there anyway.
He just absolutely destroyed him. But yeah, I mean, that is the thing, though. You still had to get that Frostbolt out to even be in that position. So ultimately, that was going to be a crazy amount of damage. And there it is, a full mirror yet again. And this is exactly what we want to see. Dalaran Sewer is going to be the map. And we talked about the record already, Adrian, that these two teams have against each other. I mean, it was already so darn close. I mean, that's the thing. You use the numbers 9 and 11. Now it's going to be, what, 10 and 11?
Yep. 10
so
11.
That's
hoping for
21 times that they've played against each other. That's actually something that's pretty statistically significant, that they're in that 50% range after playing so many gosh darn games.
And every single one of those was a Rogue Mage Priest mirror. That's the great thing about it. These guys are super well matched on those two compositions. And I mean, you can see why. Method Black had the momentum. I think they had a fantastic start to that game. Basically nothing, no dents in the armor, but then just one big play from Maro and it seals the deal. These games are so volatile.
Yesterday was a lot of fun. Today already is just the best day ever. I'm just having a blast already. Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, Rogue Mage mirrors like this are just so awesome to watch when it is two teams like this that already have the history. They're incredibly different teams too. And I remember back in the day when we used to give Waz and Raikou a lot of flack for, this is all the way back in Kiev, what, 2-3 years ago, giving them a lot of flack saying, look, they're probably the best rogue mage in the world, but they stink at mirrors. They're really bad at the mirror matchup. And very quickly, they corrected that, right? Then that wasn't a talking point. Now they have a new lineup. Now we don't even consider them a rogue mage half the time because they're never playing it. And now they're going to be in this mirror. And then all of a sudden, Ascendant was this team over the last few seasons that has just been known as the most aggressive rogue mage in the entire world. Now these two completely different teams with different styles playing the same compositions go head-to-head. Ascendant going to be leading by 1 in our series with an overall record of 10-11 against Method Black. Will they be able to take this whole series and get their spot in the grand final?
There was just so much control coming in from both of the teams. We saw defensive blinds, ice blocks not being forced out for minutes, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But Acro actually landing a sap over on the Waz. Are they going to open up on him? It's going to be interesting to see, but that's definitely a nice little advantage for Ascendant.
Yeah, Waz actually got a little taste of Acro. Saw him for a second, chased after him, and then he wasn't sure where he went, but Acro got the advantage of that one. Looks like he's just going to wait until the mage opens up. He gets the triple crowd control, something very important, but a good counter spell coming out on Tomorrow, followed up by the step kick from Waz, is enough to deny the follow-up crowd control.
Yeah, kidney shot over on a Ratipie, followed up by a full polymorph. Now Morrow could be the one in trouble with a nice temporal shield, though. Might be able to keep himself alive. Full blind onto Chaz. He trinkets out, so they get that out of the way. Morrow still keeping himself alive. Beautiful kiting coming in. Look at Acro with the spam cheap shot. Morrow gets away. Ratipie have been in so much CC right now, but beautiful defensive play coming in from Ascendant is ultimately going to save Morrow's ice block.
Yep, they got Chaz's trinket in the midst of that as well. They used the blind for it. Of course, blind, a reasonable trade. Method Black haven't used theirs just yet to force it. We see a kidney shot onto Acro, another one of these little swaps we saw Method Black trying in the last series, but just life gripped away from Ratipie, doing a great job of keeping his team stable at this moment in time. He actually defs the blind. Premonition on the blind there coming out from Ratipie. Huge play to keep his team ahead.
Yeah, Ratipie is insane. Raikou getting spell off there. There's the full kidney shot over on the Chaz. Ring of Frost coming in from Morrow, but Waz ultimately is going to slow that down. Ratipie there for the full fear, though. Paint suppression, I believe, went out onto Raikou, so Chaz, nice little preemptive play there. Will keep Raikou alive, but a nice swap over onto Acro. Cheap shot spam coming in from Waz. Is he going to be able to survive? He ultimately vanishes out, but that cost Ratipie his paint suppression.
It cost him his paint suppression, cost him his trinket. I mean, it basically nullified the great play, the great outplay coming out of Ratipie earlier in the game, so now that trinket will be matching up quite well with the blind. That's why he, of course, was more than happy to do it. But trading out that pain suppression and the vanish from Acro Lols, they're trying to have to get some counter pressure here. Raikou playing defensively. Can they get the crowd onto Chaz? You see double fair coming in from Ratipie. He wants to get aggressive. They force the ice block, but a good step kick coming in from Waz, denying the master spell. Raikou comes out anyways. We see a full sheaf onto Chaz here.
Yeah, Chaz going into the full polymorph. Raikou's going to be in a lot of trouble here. Temporal shield's going to be used. Acro's reconnect. Doesn't look like there's any follow-ups you see on Chaz. Actually, there is. DR polymorph. Raikou's still in a lot of trouble. Penance connects from Ratipie, putting out some nice priest burst, but Chaz out of that crowd control with the Rapture will easily keep Raikou alive and stabilize his HP. Raikou still has one ice block left. Morrow still has both ice blocks left. Acros has his trinket. Honestly, defensively, Ascendant's looking really good.
Yeah, I was a little scared for Raikou there. They kicked the master spell, but then he came out anyways. Seems like he's okay though. Still one ice block down as we see another beautiful setup. So much damage. The fear following up from Ratipie forces the trinket before the blind, but they actually commit the DR blind. They're going for this second ice block here. If they get this, it's going to be completely worth it, but they're not quite going to, which means maybe it could have been better to save that blind for the next diminishing return. Now we see crowd control over onto Ratipie as they're trying to convert the pressure.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit greedy by Acro going for that play. Raikou is going to be fine, but Morrow taking a big bunch of damage. Chaz not going to be able to get that mass dispel out from a nice kidney shot coming in from Acro to slow that down. Waz looking for a re-stealth, it looks like, but Morrow gets out of the ice block, locks out Raikou. Frost Nova's Waz, good control coming in from Morrow. Raikou's going to preemptively use that temporal shield as he was locked out, but now he's not going to have that available as Chaz goes into the fear. Cheap shot onto Raikou, but a nice barrier drop by Chaz. Just doing such a good job in this game, preemptively predicting this damage. There's a kidney shot over on the Ratipie into the full polymorph. Morrow now having to kite away once again as Waz looking to reconnect, but Morrow, he's just going to ice block that Ebon Bolt coming in from Raikou. Doesn't want to get taken down without using it.
Yeah, suddenly the game's turned completely on its head. Method Black are the ones taking the lead. They force both the ice blocks. We see good Ring of Frost coming in there from Chaz. He's trying to, onto Chaz, trying to get some pressure onto Raikou. It's just Acrylos for now. They force the second ice block as well. So now this game is really on a knife's edge as we see the full fear onto Chaz. Neither of these mages have an ice block, that immunity to any damage. The next crowd control could well win the game, but Ratipie has the advantage of his trinket.
Yeah, there's a barrier. Ratipie actually goes into full blind. He trinkets out, so if Raikou can land a full polymorph, Ratipie's going to be in big trouble. Morrow getting lower. Ratipie needs to spam with the heals. Actually, life grips Morrow out of line of sight. Nice cheap shot spam coming in from Acro, trying to just peel up Waz and Raikou, but their offensive push is going to be delayed because of that defensive play. Waz now looking to reconnect on Morrow, going for the re-stealth. Manages to land it. Cheap shot onto Morrow. Polymorph onto Ratipie. Morrow needs to keep himself alive. No temporal shield available. Trying to kite away. Can Acro help him? Another polymorph on Ratipie. Nice fear coming in from Chaz and Morrow. There's no way you're going to be squeaking out of this one.
What a game.
Managed to tie up the series 1-1.
All tied up, and yeah, the incredible thing about watching two teams like this play this mirror matchup is you just know at any second, at any time, someone could be going down. It all just needs that beautiful setup, that little bit of opportunity, and they can turn it into a mile so easily. And now Method Black going to be able to take their first one in this series. And another important thing to note is yes, momentum matters, because if you're trading games back and forth, obviously the team that has the first win's going to hit that victory first. But ultimately, if you're in that mirror matchup, there is no counter-comping play. They're both going to be comfortable on the same maps. So it really does just come down to who's going to be able to pull down more games more quickly. And I feel like we expect this one to go all the way to a Game 5, Zico.
Yeah, I think we can safely assume that it's going to be a Game 5. It's going to be, these teams always go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's always super, super close. So I think that we're in for a real treat here. And we're going to take a look at some of the highlights as well from that game. You can see the final moments of that game right there. It's crazy how fast these matchups just swing in the blink of an eye. And honestly, Ascendant looked really, really good in this matchup for some time. They managed to get a kidney shot onto Chaz, fear him out, force his trinket, but then they went for the DR blind and they couldn't actually capitalize on it and force something. I think if they held on to it and went for a full blind sap, that gives Ascendant an opportunity to actually master spell that ice block and maybe win the game on that long CC chain. So Ascendant definitely could have done a couple of things differently, but this was super close, and I didn't know who was going to win until someone actually did. So
I feel like we're going to feel that way for all of the games in this series, and they're just around the corner. These two squads the entire year trying to prove who the best rogue mage is. Now they're going to be in a mirror, and not only is pride on the line, they're also going to be fighting for the first ticket to the grand finals after this quick break. Folks, we're jumping straight into this one. We are all tied up, and we need to just see these gates get open because Method Black versus Ascendant, whoever takes this one is on match point. We'll be one game away from going to the grand finals in this, our second European Cup of the summer season. Who is going to come out on top?
Yeah, despite that nice opener coming in from Ascendant with the sap on Nawaz, Ascendant really couldn't capitalize, and ultimately Method Black took that victory. We'll have to see if either one of these rogues can find a prime opener. Let's see how they open up. Both rogues are going to be using their sprint, moving into position. They actually cross each other. Radopi going for the clarity of wills here, just to empower some of those shields on Amaro. Full sap going out on Amaro. Raikou still in his invis, so this is a better opener for Method Black.
Yeah, it's definitely good when you get the sap onto the mage, probably as he's building up that invisibility. Takes a couple of seconds to track. Now we see full fade onto Radopi as they do get the opener. Maro uses his human racial, blinks away, trying to get that follow-up polymorph. Doesn't get it though, as Radopi does get sheep, so excellent start from Method Black. Can they force the ice block?
Yeah, Maro had a nice temporal shield though, healing himself to full, but still, the ice block does get forced out. There's the Master Spell as well. This is horrible for Ascendant. They need to somehow turn this around. Radopi charging in, looking for the fear onto Chaz. Lands it. Can Maro get the follow-up polymorph? Actually, a nice blink CS coming in from Raikou. Denies that. Method Black is on fire early on.
Yeah, Raikou's been all over Maro so far in this game. We see another polymorph attempt here coming out. The poly onto Waz. They get the triple CC. This is what we saw in game one that won them the game. They get the Ring of Frost and the polymorph. Can they follow it up though? Raikou in trouble. Doesn't use the ice block just yet. Able to kite away. Pain suppression, of course, coming out onto him from Chaz, mitigating some of that incoming damage, but he still has to use the ice block. Quick Master Spell or quick break coming out, but there's no more follow-up crowd control, so Raikou should be fine.
Yeah, Maro actually had a really sick play there. He moved into his Ring of Frost, so Waz could not stop the follow-up polymorph, stop him at all. Now Radopi into the full Ring of Frost. Maro already out of line of sight. We see him play defensive at times when he knows his healer is going to be CC'd for a long time. He uses the temporal shield, trying to blink back over. Evan Bolt connects from Raikou. Maro is going to be ice blocking. I feel like that ice block was maybe a little bit too preemptive. Really respecting that Evan Bolt coming in from Raikou, as Radopi was out of crowd control, but maybe just didn't want to have him fall behind. Now both teams have sort of stabilized at this point. Cheap shot onto Raikou, fear onto Chaz. Nicely done by Radopi. Raikou gets the temporal shield, massive spell. Do they have any follow-up damage? Waz just cheap shot and kidney shot on Radopi, onto the entire enemy team, slowing down that setup completely, keeping Raikou alive. But it looks like Akros is going to be able to find the damage. Raikou, though, manages to survive. That was very nicely done by Method Black.
Yeah, Maro, I think, had an entire 6 seconds to try fake the kick and land the polymorph, but on the third cast, Waz instantly kicked him. Waz just completely all over. That's so annoying to play against a rogue of this caliber. Now, Maro still trying to get that polymorph. He's really struggling, though, as Aguilos gets swapped to in the smoke bomb. Big play coming out of Waz, noticing no trinket there, and they take the series up 2-1. And honestly, a super high-class game for Method Black.
Method Black impresses me so much. I mean, they are playing against arguably one of the best RMPs. They only play RMP Ascendant. That's the comp that they play, and Method Black is beating them at their own game, in spite of the fact that they also play 10 other comps at basically the top tier caliber.
The important thing to keep in mind, too, is the fact that it's probably not their main comp anymore, and it's crazy. The second you see Waz playing Rogue Mage, you're like, oh yeah, like of course he's going to be playing well, but you can't because of what you said. Really, they have looked so strong on these other compositions. They seem to be their main comps, and it's just nutty to see how proficient they can be on both. I'm really curious, though, by the way, for Method Black in particular, and Adrian, you're really good at stuff like this, so I kind of want to hear what you think about it. I feel like if we had a stat for games lost by Method Black, I feel like they lose most game ones, like when they actually do lose a game in a series, and then they just figure out the other team. I feel like they have this crazy ability that maybe they'll lose game one, and then all of a sudden they just go on a tear and destroy teams.
I mean, it's something we talked about a little with Tempo Storm too, where they'll try out this kind of slightly odd composition sometimes, and then they'll just lose and go back to their bread and butter. Like we already saw it where they played the RLS yesterday, then they swapped back to the Ellie Outlaw, they won. I think this one was a little bit of an anomaly when they lost first game because it was just such a great play coming out of Maro, but they looked like they were winning that game too. I mean, honestly, this series could well have been 3-0 at this point, but Method Black, I mean, they have lost a couple of their first games. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's one of those things that I want to go back and actually kind of look at, and it's funny you mentioned Tempo Storm too, because that was something that was very indicative of them last year. But let's pay attention to Method Black versus Ascendant. Method Black, Zico, going to be leading in this series.
Yeah, and this was such a great opener. There's not really anything that you can do here if you are Ascendant. You don't really want to use your trinket right there as Radopi. So this is just Waz playing super phenomenally. If you guys don't know, in the RMP mirror, this is what we typically see. Both rogues charge in with sprint, and they try to slap the enemy mage as soon as possible. Now, the priest of both teams as well usually charges in and try to master spell out the other mage. So a lot of these openers are about getting the mage out of invisibility or trying to sap him before he can get that invisibility. That's how you get the best opener in an RMP match. Despite what some people might think, sapping the rogue is actually not that beneficial to do. I mean, obviously it's better than getting sapped, but it's not nearly as important as getting a sap on the mage, which Waz has managed to secure in this opener here. So Waz saps the mage, kidney shots Ratapai when Chaz has moved in. This is the important part. This is at the very end of the at the very end of the sap to allow Ratapai to kind of allow Chaz, sorry, to move forward so that he doesn't need, so Waz doesn't need to rely on Raikou landing that polymorph, knowing that Raikou is going to be far back here trying to just do damage to Maro basically. So let's run the opener and see what happens. This is such an insane opener because Chaz has time to dispel Maro as well, a couple of dispels, and then there it is, nice stun on the on Maro, and Raikou of course going to be immediately trinketing out of that. Follow up sheep into a fear. Follow up fear into a sheep on Ratapai, and then of course Chaz is going to be trinketing out of that blind, and they're going to be rewarded with the ice block. So great opener. You get that kidney into full fear, into a full sheep, and the best part is when you have a kidney fear is that in the kidney shot you can cast a sheep as the mage, get kicked, and then cast another sheep in the fear after the kidney shot has ended, because then you're no longer kicked. So you can kind of polymorph through the kicks that way, and that's sort of what happens. And here, this is also such intelligent play from Method Black, because here they force out Ratapai's trinket with the blind, then Raikou sheeps the trinket, and here this is like almost bad mannered from Method Black, because they forced 2 ice blocks on Maro. They could easily take Maro down here, but Method Black realizes Maro has trinket, so Maro could potentially trinket, counterspell Raikou, or trinket and blink away, so it's not 100% safe. Now, however, Acro does not have his trinket, and there is a smoke bomb on the side of Method Black, so Method Black here goes for the very intelligent play into swapping with Acrolals, and that's exactly what's going to be happening here in the kill. You see Chaz is moving forward to be able to fear out. Maro gets cheap shotted, and then Acro peels Waz, so Waz trinkets, sheep shots Acro, smoke bombs. There's the frozen orb as well. There is so long time as well left on that fear, and that's all really that you need to do. You just, when you play these RMP mirrors, you have to track trinkets, defensives, and consistently decide, okay, is it better to swap priest? Is it better to swap rogue? Is it better to swap mage? And Method Black did that phenomenally in last game.
We're incredibly lucky in World of Warcraft esports for several reasons. One, the fact that we're getting in the game right now. The other reason is definitely having a mind like Zico on the desk. It's been so awesome having you this entire year. It's been one of the most needed things I think we've ever had, and you thrive in this rogue mage environment. Keep in mind what Zico said as we enter this game, because if Method Black finds an opener like they did last time, they may be able to just run away with the series here and get their spot in the grand final.
Yeah, and just watching those replays, you see Waz with the, like, he's baiting the kick. He goes, like, he vanishes late, step kicks the polymorph. You see beautiful pre-polymorph on the trinket coming out of Raikou. These guys are just so good at World of Warcraft, and they're so good in these mirrors, even though they're not running this comp as their main these days, man.
Ooh, Waz on top of Acros. Maybe looking for the sap here? Or he lands the sap. Let's see how Method Black capitalizes on this. Looks like they're just going to be opening up right away with Kidney Shot over on the Ratapai. Maro still the target of choice. Temporal Shield going to be used immediately, but it gets dispelled. Very nicely done by Method Black. Ratapai actually trinkets out, lands the full fear onto Chaz. Can Ascendant sort of capitalize on it? Doesn't look like they're going to be able to for now. Raikou actually using his Icy Veins there, wanting to get aggressive, but Maro seems to be completely fine.
Ooh, and he took a fair chunk of damage in the back end of that exchange. Chaz, though, with the pain suppression to mitigate a lot of that. Still, a lot of cooldowns forced there. Rapture, pain suppression, Archangel, a lot of those big healing modifiers for the Discipline Priest on Method Black. We'll have to see who comes next to the crowd control. Waz pushes in, gets it, but a good good step kick coming in from Acrolors. They're still looking for that Ring of Frost. They're not able to land that either, but the fear into it. Acrolors now caught up in trouble. He gets stunned on his trinket. Radopi has to trinket to save him, and that's huge.
That's so interesting. Raikou was literally just spamming Frostbolts on Maro when Waz made that swap onto Acro and forced his trinket. There's a full fear onto Chaz. Raikou getting bursted down, though. There's the Ice Block. Master Spell comes in. This is where they can turn around the game, but it's no more CC onto Chaz. Easily tops off Raikou. Looking at the clarity of Wills. Full Polymorph coming in, though, from Maro. Excellently done. Full blind onto Ratify. Both mages going to be in trouble here, but Raikou's the one with no Ice Block. Blinks out of the Smoke Bomb. Big swap over onto Acro one more time. But Raikou getting bursted down huge. Another Smoke Bomb gets dropped out. Acro getting low. Ratify into the sap. Acro needs to keep himself alive. Only evasion is keeping him up right now. Cheap shot spam over onto Waz. Raikou looking for the Frostbolt damage. Ratify still in CC. Cheap shot coming in from Waz into the kidney shot. Acro trying to keep himself alive, but the CC never ends. Waz did such a good job controlling Ratify.
And in the midst of that, Chaz actually premonitioned another blind, or it broke. I'm pretty sure he premonitioned it so that he could land that double fear to secure the game. Class.
The Chaz and Ratify head-to-head is just so phenomenal to watch. We were actually talking about like all these crazy stats and things that we're like, oh, what would be like the best stats that we want to be working on in the future? And I feel like 8 of them involve these guys because just this head-to-head matchup is so interesting. Ultimately, though, Method Black going to be able to close out this series, go to the grand finals. And Zico, one of the first things I wanted to talk about it before we even got into this game, but luckily we got to just jump straight into the action.